Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa Life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The Spa and Spa Life, the SPA, is for Seek Power Always, that power within you to do your deeper work in the world. I am so thrilled today to have our special guest. You get a dynamic duo for our theme for being a force for good in the world. And we have two forces of good in the world here on the show, which I am so excited about because this couple are taking human potential to the next level. And we're going to be sharing about their new book, Ask, and getting into some deep knowledge about that. For those of you who are visually watching it, they're throwing it up there for you guys to be able to see, and we'll get diving into that. Now, you're going to recognize some of these names here, and I'm going to introduce a little bit here about who they are. Mark Victor Hansen is widely known as an American inspirational and motivational speaker, trainer, author, serial entrepreneur, and member of multiple board of directors. He is best known as the founder and co-creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul series, which has sold more than 500 million books. Amazing. So great. And his beautiful and brilliant bride, Crystal Dwyer Hansen, is an international speaker, researcher, corporate consultant, author, and entrepreneur. Her expertise, and actually both of their expertise, is in human potential. And with Mark, over 44 years of experience, and Crystal, through her multiple years of experience as a transformational life coach and wellness nutrition expert, are really looking into how people are tapping into their own inner resources. So welcome to the show, Mark and Crystal.
Delighted to be here this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. So happy to be here with you.
This is so great. I really want to jump into here about, now Mark has written over 312 books, right? And so why together are you writing this book, and why now?
Well, first of all, we traveled to like 80 countries, talked to some 7 million people around the world. And what we discovered is there's great people, wonderful, educated, professional, likable. But the difference between somebody who succeeds a little and succeeds a lot is one thing only, and that is they have the ability to ASK to GET what they want. That's why we wrote Ask, the bridge from your dreams to your destiny, because you don't get what you deserve, you get what you ask for. And so we discovered in this trial and tribulation time, especially, people need to know the three channels, which are ask yourself, ask others, and ask God.
I love this. Now, people may be thinking, asking, that sounds very familiar. We've heard certain aspects of asking through The Secret, through Ask and Receive. What is it about asking that you're bringing forth now that has people look at this from a different perspective?
Right. So like Mark said, we discovered there are actually three channels through which you need to learn to ask. And each of those channels is equally important. And as he mentioned, it's ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And we say it always begins with that reflective journey, the asking yourself part, because you can't possibly move forward in your life until you take the time with yourself to ask those questions. And we found that as we started writing the book, as we reflected on our own lives, every single time we were in a situation that we felt like it was difficult, all the trials and tribulations we've been through, the adversity, the only way we were able to overcome that was through asking a series of questions and being able to formulate the right question at the right time. And as we started doing the interviews for the books, we found the same thing with people who are successful, who are able to transcend their difficulties in life. They share that one thing in common. They are able to ask their way through to the next stage. And we call them master askers. And what we wanted to do is help everybody become a master asker, because when you do, you are truly able to transcend any adversity that comes your way.
Right. Now, does it matter as far as the order of asking? Do you ask yourself first? Do you ask God first? Is it others? Like, how is that actual in application?
Let me do it in operation. In 1974, when I went bankrupt, I lost $2 million in a day because I was reading all the bad news fit to print and imploded negativity into my head. I checked a book out of the library, How to Go Bankrupt by Yourself, which that alone says is if you ask the wrong question, get rid of that one. Ask the wrong question. Exactly. Get a negative on that one. I failed that one. But for 6 months, I'm sleeping in front of another guy's room because things are so bad for me, and I'm despondent, disconsolate, depressed. I'm considering suicide because I thought self-worth and net worth were the same. I now know they're not. And so I finally came to ask myself, what do I want to do? And I want to talk to people that care about things that matter, that would make a life-changing difference. And I would go to my 3 roommates. I was living literally in Hicksville, Long Island, New York at the time. And I say, boys, I want to talk. Do you know anyone that's young, that's not a lawyer, a doctor, a celebrity, a Broadway star that's making money? And the guy says, yeah, there's a kid out here talking to us realtor. Here's my ticket. Miraculous. I mean, here is I decide what I want to do, and suddenly miracles happen, which is what we're saying. Everybody's stuck in a cocoon now, has got to repivot, reinvent, and re-ask themselves how to go forward. I get out there, and this guy mesmerized the audience for 3 hours. His name's Chip Collins. At the end of which I say, I'm Mark Victor Hansen. I'd like to take you to lunch and learn how to do what you do. He said, look, kid, the chance you make it is 1 in 1,000. You're not going to make it, so I don't think you should bother. I said, look, I'm buying lunch. Let me ask you out, ask all these questions. And I did 1,000 talks here the first 3 years because I'm, once I get into something, I believe take massive action. And then everyone said, boy, you are a great storyteller. Do you have that in a book? And I put together a little book, Stand Up, Speak Out, and Win. And to little audiences of 6, 10, 50 people at the most, I sold almost everybody a book. And I said, this isn't a New York Times bestseller. It's not a national bestseller, but it's my bestseller. I want to sign to you, your wife, your kids, and your dog if you have one. And I sold 20,000 copies, made $10 each, $200,000. I thought I died and gone to heaven. I've gone from bankruptcy to feeling like I'm on top of the world again, which is really a nicer feeling. And that's what we're saying is our destiny is helping everyone else find their destiny. And if you're alive, you've got a destiny, and your job is to find it. And I don't know that what's happened is that people are buying 2 books and going over every question in our book, our Ask book, and discovering what transformation of soul, spirit, mind, and body they got to do to fulfill their destiny and get out of the doldrums that everyone's living in.
Right. Well, in your book, you talk about that there are 7 roadblocks to ask. There's a lot of people there's a lot of fear that's happening in the field, and people are feeling like stuck more than ever before. What are some of those roadblocks, and how can people move beyond what are those external circumstances that are happening?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Diane, because when you drill down and start to talk to people about it, we all have these fears, these roadblocks to asking for what we want in life. And, let's just go through them. The first one is unworthiness. And that's a really powerful one. And it is just this subtle conditioning that comes from our childhood, really, or from our early days that just sort of is always telling us at some level we don't deserve better or we're not enough. The next one is naivete. And this is such an important one because we're all naive. I tell a story in the book about when my daughters were very young. I had 2 girls 16 months apart. And so this beautiful woman from the Philippines came to work for us, and she'd make these wonderful dishes for our family. And one day she showed up with this fruit and cut it up on a plate and handed it to me and said, try this, Crystal. And I tasted it. It was orange juicy fruit. And I was like, wow, Melda, this is the best fruit I've ever tasted. What is this? And she goes, it's a mango. And I said, a mango? How come I've never had a mango, right? I go, where did you get this? And she goes, at the grocery store. I'm thinking she's going to say she imported it from the Philippines. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've been walking past these mangoes, the best fruit in the world, at the grocery store. How did I miss that? Why am I so naive? But I grew up in Idaho where there are lots of potatoes, but no mangoes. And it made me think, what else am I missing? Right? What other people am I walking past every day that could be my greatest colleague, my next best friend, an advocate, a partner, somebody who needs my help, or just what opportunities am I walking past? And I think we're all a little bit naive. And what happens is our curiosity gets shut down. We're all born as young children, with this just beautiful curiosity. We come into this world uncorrupted, and we want to know everything. We want to know who, what, when, where, why, and how. And we also want to ask for more all the time. And then over time, whether it's the way we were parented, our schooling, our jobs, just basic life rejection starts to shut us down. And so we stop being curious. We stop asking. We start being ashamed that we don't already have all the answers.
Right.
And So, naivete is a really big roadblock because we're saying we need to just rekindle that curiosity. The next roadblock is...
Wait, Crystal, before you go to the next one, I'd love to, because you're a scientific researcher, and we always hear about like the reticular activator in our head, where we tend to focus on certain things that we're familiar with, and we do. How is it that we can kind of broaden that to, be curious and move out of that naivete to start seeing more than what we're actually seeing?
Yes. Really, we just get out of that by asking. I mean, asking is so amazing. When you start asking yourself a question, literally a different part of your brain lights up. A different part of your brain goes to work for you. Your brain becomes a greater resource to you. So start, making it intentional to be curious. Who is that? I wonder what that person does. How come I've never seen that fruit before? I wonder what it tastes like. I wonder why they're doing that. What's interesting? Maybe I'll ask them. Maybe, what does this person think of this? And so when we start asking more questions, becoming more curious, it's like the lens of our camera to life just opens up in this big, glorious way. And we're going to start to see more opportunities. We're going to start to experience more beauty. We're going to start to see more connections, more people, more exciting ventures. And it's just one of the most magical things we can do with our lives is to learn to rekindle this beautiful tool of asking that we all were born with, but it gets shut down over time. And then by recognizing that and recognizing our roadblocks, we can reactivate that and come back to life.
Right. Well, I love, as you're speaking about that, I'm thinking about, I have a 2-year-old grandson, and everything is new and spectacular and shiny. And by looking through the eyes of a child, you see things in such a different perspective, and the questions that they ask and what they're about. So I love this. I love this naivety, and that we can kind of look different. So what's after that?
So then there's doubt. Doubt is just sort of that gray zone that people live in, where it's like, oh, that didn't work out last time. I doubt it's going to work out this time. I'm not going to ask. It's just a really miserable state of being when you just start to doubt everything. The next one is excuses. And that comes down to sort of that stubborn pride. We've all known those people who go, no, I don't need any help. I'm not going to ask. Well, why don't you just ask? Just ask me or ask them. No, I'm fine. I can do it. Yet they sit there in this miserable state and, trying to be the Lone Ranger, but never really getting the help they need or the assistance they need. And there's no reason to do that, so it's really about getting past those excuses, that stubborn pride. And then the next one, did you want
I was just going to say, I wanted to ask a little bit about that, because I think that there's something you touched on a little bit earlier about when people feel like they should already have the answers. Like they almost feel stupid for asking a question. It's like, we hear like there's no dumb question, but yet there's a part of it that feels like, well, I'm a beginner in this, or I'm not familiar with this, and I'm not sure how to go about this. So how is it that we kind of get beyond that? Like there's no dumb question, and that we can kind of expand beyond that, or what is it about us feeling like we should already know when we've not actually been exposed to it before?
Right. Well, one thing that I want everybody to lock into is like the studies that were done on asking, because a lot of studies have been done on asking. Why don't we ask? Or why are we afraid to ask, and that sort of thing. Going into the study, everyone feels the same way, that they're going to be perceived as being stupid, ignorant, uninformed, or that they're going to appear to be pushy and obnoxious if they're asking for something, some help or something.
Right.
The studies show the opposite is true. If you're just willing to put yourself out there and ask for something, there's an 80% more likely chance you'll get what you need, the help, the assistance, the answers that you need. So really, these fears that we have are irrational. The studies show the fear is irrational. Mm-hmm. So knowing that is empowering. And also the studies further show that if you are a good asker in relationships, business relationships, even in dating relationships, like the better question asker you are, the more you're perceived as to be likable, a more likable person in business, a more likable person in dates. And in fact, daters who ask the most questions were the most likely to get a second date.
I like this. I like this about asking questions because I don't know if it's from being a police officer for a lot of years or when I worked undercover asking a lot of questions. It was like you ask a lot of questions and I'm like, well, how am I going to find the answers if I don't ask them? So it's just that getting out there and actually doing it, because even going up to someone, a stranger and just asking them something, just that engaging in a different way than you normally would, like getting out of your comfort zone with that, it can feel weird, like doing that boundary of that. But once you do it, I love how you're saying just by asking alone, you have that 80% chance of actually getting that answer and having something more come of that. So it's almost like that gives yourself a little bit of permission of like, you know what, it's worth it to step in there and to actually go in and ask those questions.
First of all, we want to thank you for being a police officer, just like we thank all the people in the military, because we need law and order as far as we're concerned. And by the way, we want to have it in the world right now. And then the next one is disconnection. And disconnection has lots of levels of disconnection. Now, my wife will talk about one level, but I think this is the greatest disconnector ever on the planet, because even like 3 years ago, we stopped going to China. But back then when we thought China was okay, it was amazing to us. The kids would have 2 telephones and they'll be walking with you and you go, wait a second, I'm here, and they're now seeing screen time as the way to connect. And so what's happened is now that we've got sequestered in a cocoon, right? Podcasting, which we're doing right now with you, is exponentially growing. The average Americans are listening 7.5 hours a week. And thank God, because they're getting real information, I think, from a lot of our peers based on what we're hearing is happening.
Right. Well, I'd love Mark to ask about that, because in terms of this disconnection that's happening, people are becoming more social distance. And, even though it's wonderful that we get to see each other and we're having these conversations, there's something about that human touch and that connection, and especially for children and with people wearing masks all the time as well. I feel like there's a bit of false security in that being like the realm for your health, for one. But the other is the learning aspect. I mean, you think about how much a child learns from facial expressions, from smiles, from just, what's scary and what is approachable. How do you feel like that is going to affect people's comfort level of getting to know someone, feeling a connection to actually be able to ask when there's so much separation?
We got a multitude of answers for that. But first of all, we just got back. We had a 10-day vacation, first one we had this year in Florida with our relatives. And what was happening is the people were at restaurants open and it was wonderful, and our family got along. And what we feel, we've got 6 grandkids that we absolutely love and adore and cherish. And sometimes they come in here wearing masks and they're now told they got to wear masks in school. And we're saying, hey, look, when you kids are out at recess, I'm telling you straight up, no one's ever asked this before, but we're saying take off the mask because you need the energy. You need to see the other kids. And I know the teacher, and you need to be out in the open, and you need the vitamin D. And we're taking them through all the levels of it. Would you add to that?
Well, I agree. I mean, I think the masks are somewhat dehumanizing, and particularly for children, like you said, what is it? Like 90% of communication is nonverbal, a good 85% anyway. How do we expect these children to develop normally when when they're not getting those facial cues, when they're not seeing smiles, when they're not interacting with each other or their teachers, normally? You only see a third of the face.
Right.
It's very, very concerning to me. And I really, quite frankly, don't like it. I think it does not bode well for the development of kids. And actually we have as well, our daughter, as well as other friends of ours, are teachers, and they're seeing it in the development of their kids. Our daughter, who's a special education teacher, said the kids have gone backwards.
Right.
And they had made so much progress from last year, and at the point that they started, staying home and then wearing masks, they've really lost ground. So
Right.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Well, people look at it one dimensionally, and that, there's a virus. Of course, we are all viruses. As a scientist, we're exposed to a lot of different things, but the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of it, suicide's up really high, domestic violence, child abuse, isolation. There's so many other things that are impacting this as a long-term, look at what's happening, and fear is at such a high level. And Mark, one of of your quotes, you talked about you control your future and your destiny, and to put your future in good hands, your own. So how is it that people who are looking at so many outside circumstances, how is it that they can put their future back in their own hands and come from a more strengthful place to start living their life?
Excellent question. Thank you for that. The world happens out there, but it really happens, like Crystal and I teach, is inside out, right? And inside out is why we're saying, hey, look, find somebody else, get 2 copies of this book and give them one if you have to, or get them to buy one, and then go through every question in the book. And like the other day, we got like 121 letters in a day, and we went through, Crystal and I are so busy trying to do just podcasts that we started to read them, and the people are having love and life transformation because they're finding A, self-acceptance, B, self-awareness, C, self-love, and they're saying, hey, wait a second, I can really figure out how to do this. And this can be the greatest time of my life, because our corporate symbol is a butterfly. We say, look, you can't look at caterpillar, predict chrysalis, cocoon, and see that you're going to have a high-flying butterfly. But out of every great recession or depression America's had, in 1898, 4 things came out of it. First of all, the Wright brothers learned to fly a plane, right? And by 19, we had the automobile, we had Edison do the light bulb, and we had the telephone. So great things come out of these. I can go through the 29, 39, but the point right now is that because we're in technology also, we're finding all these great, glorious breakthroughs. It can be the best time if you are thinking right, talking right, asking the right questions to the right people to get the right answers right now.
I love this so much. And, I know that philanthropy is a very big part and a foundation of what you do. It's a big part of our company as well. And I'd love for you guys to talk about, that there's 4 different types of tithing. And we always hear about time, talent, and treasure, but we don't necessarily hear about thinking. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about thinking in terms of tithing.
Well, first of all, I'm amazed you'd ask that. I wrote a book called The Miracle of Tithing, which we've just been asked by, we talked to a publisher a few minutes ago, and we want to redo it as the miracle of giving, because everyone can give. And some people, businessmen, when I sold so many of the book, you say, what's the miracle of tithing? And I said, you haven't been tithed enough lately. But here's the deal. Like, we are, co-chair people of Child Help, which has helped 10.5 million kids get out of child abuse, neglect, and trafficking. And it, I can rip your heart right out with this stories, just like chickens. And I'm pretty good at that, and our books do that. But the point is, if I ask you to contribute your thinking first, then you can go to the treasure. It is something everybody else forgets. Everybody is give me, and they forget that if you get the thinking, you get everything. Because, the Bible says, as a man or woman thinketh in his or her heart, so is he or she. The point is, all we are is a distillation and crystallization of our thinking. Crystallization of our thinking.
Yes. That reminds me of James Allen, As a Man Thinketh.
Yes.
I hope that was what you were looking for. I can go deep.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think it's an important time where people, they think that that giving of their finances, which is always very helpful. I mean, one of our passion projects is Operation Underground Railroad, which is with the sex trafficking. And I think part of that passion came out of when I worked undercover in prostitution. And we really see things in a very different perspective from that place. But the thinking aspect of it, from coming from that place, that how much more expansive that giving can be, and where you can think about it from a different way is so important. So yeah, if you have something else about that, I'd love for you to share. I know that water is also like a big passion of yours as well, and the projects and things. So, you're looking very globally in terms of how you can have this impact that affects so many people.
It really comes back to ask yourself, what are you going to think about? What is the impact you want to make? And one of the questions we have in a book from our colleague and friend, Dr. Peter Demandis, is, what are you going to do to positively affect 1 billion people during this decade? If you're alive, we said, the first question we said is, the subtitle of the book is, ask the bridge from your dreams to your destiny. And all of us have great dreams. And what Crystal was saying to you a minute ago, so many of us have had them crushed out by parents, most parents do it very ignorantly, not out of malice, and same with teachers, and same with military, same with, jobs, same with church, temple, synagogue, ashram, or mosque. And what we're saying is, hey, wait a second. If you could do something and make a great and glorious impact, ask yourself, what is it that would fulfill your soul and heart? And everybody's come in with that. And we're reinvigorating that based on the enormous amount of mail we're starting and email we're starting to get.
Right. Are you seeing any patterns of when people talk about like things that they want to ask about or areas of impact that you're seeing people kind of have a propensity towards?
I think everybody has their own idea of what they want to impact, although I think a lot of people are there's just this heightened awareness about this human trafficking thing across the planet. And there are more real stories and real data about the horrors. I mean, a few people have told me some very graphic aspects of it. It's so unthinkable. I can't even say the words. I really can't. It's so hideous. And I think as people discover, there is a segment of society around the world, a global society, that are really, they do monstrous things and exploit other human beings sexually and otherwise. And we all need to wake up and be a part of the solution. We cannot keep our heads in the sand. And I think so many people now that there's more exposure is happening, they're willing to do that. It's one of the reasons we support Child Help. It's an amazing organization. There are a number of really good organizations, but, children just, their innocence can't be taken away like this.
Right. I agree with you, Crystal, in that I think people would just be horrified if they knew the level of abuse and things that are happening to children globally. And one of the things, I think when I retired from law enforcement, there was a part of me that just didn't want to see the underbelly of society anymore and kind of stepped away from some of that. And when I was at Tony Robbins' 60th birthday party, which was a fundraiser for Operation Underground Railroad, and he had said that, hey, part of what we're going to talk about here at my own birthday party is things that people don't want to hear about. But one of the things that he said that really caught my attention was that if the children can endure it, the least we can do is do something about it. And that really re-sparked for me to get back involved in really helping with the children in that impact. And so, that is one of those questions to be asked, is that just because it's horrific, does it mean we don't get involved? Does it mean that we don't have an aspect in it? So I love these deeper questions that we're asking in the world. And I love the ripple effect that you're having with this book and with your work, is that you're asking people these deeper questions that they can actually have impact on, that they may not realize that they actually can.
Right. And, I think learning to be a great question asker starts with ourselves. And that's why we say, ask yourself, ask others, ask God. And, the only way our lives change, we get stuck in these states of being, we get stuck in paradigms, and we think everything's fixed in stone. And what I tell people as a transformational life coach is that nothing is fixed in your life. Absolutely nothing. You can change everything, but the changes always happen with asking the right questions. And so that's the ask yourself part. Asking yourself is that reflective journey. When you sit down and take that time with yourself to ask these questions and answer them, and then write down those answers, it is the most important part of your day. It's the most important thing you can do in your life to direct your life to the highest path, to the greatest expression of you. And that journey, Mark and I say there are basically 3 phases of that ask yourself part. The first phase is, where am I now? Right? Because you really have to understand where you are at any given time before you can move forward, right? You have to analyze that. You have to sit with yourself. You have to ask yourself the tough questions. Sometimes the questions we ask ourselves, they have to be kind of tough. Like, am I doing the best I can? Am I finding, all these things? And I know I've had to ask my way out of situations like that before, but where am I now? And all the little sub questions that come underneath that, what's working right now? Am I enjoying it? Is it my true expression? What other things should I be looking at? And then the second phase of that is, where do I want to be? Because so few people take that time to deliberately set their goals or set the architecture of their life in place by asking themselves, where do I want to be? And what Mark and I say is, we like to encourage everybody to start with the end in mind. Start with that nth degree of success, achievement, accomplishment, whether it's in your relationships, your career, or your life purpose, or your health and wellness, whatever it is. And just imagine the greatest scenario you're in, say in your career, and then ask yourself those questions backwards. In this perfect career of mine, what am I doing every day? How am I impacting people? Who are my clients? What are the best services I'm offering? What are the best products I'm offering? And then the final phase of that ask yourself part is really, what specific action do I need to take to get there? So where am I now? Where do I want to be? What specific action do I need to take to get there? That will start to change things in your life. When you seem stuck, you don't know the way forward, this is exactly the way forward, by asking those questions, by going through the questions in the book. And really, because the second you ask that question, your brain, as we said, lights up, and you start to find the solutions, the illuminations, the understandings.
Right. I was just thinking for a moment here about, like, when people are asking those questions and they're going through that process, is there a certain part in that asking that people tend to get stuck?
I'd say in the beginning, when I was scared and freaked out for 6 months, sleeping in a sleeping bag in front of another guy's room, I was going, wow, do I deserve to live? Because I just blew away $2 million, and it was because of the oil embargo and all that. And I was building geodesic domes, which were great. But the truth is, with a bigger perspective, when you ask the question, that was not my right livelihood. What I'm doing now is my right livelihood. Becoming as a professional speaker, and then right now I'm world's best-selling author according to Guinness Book of Records in nonfiction, is that I want to create even more, because if you're made in the image and likeness of God, which we totally believe, and I think you do, then you got two obligations. One is create, and the other is contribute. And that doesn't stop because you got rich. It doesn't stop because you hit 55, 65, 72 and a half. I'm going to live to be 127 with options for renewal, because we have a high quality of life. I wouldn't want a high quality of life. And right now, we've come into the first time in history where people are ageless. At the time of Jesus, everyone was dust at 22, right? That's why they started having babies at 12. So we're in a wonderful time to expand longevity, and your quality of life is back to what you asked about altruism and contributing, and that is how much are you contributing, because we really feel good about sourcing and serving and helping as many people as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this, and I think that we have so many opportunities to be conscious about what it is that we create and what we want to be able to do. And actually, one kind of fun question I like to ask my guests is, because we really are intentional about our space. Like, we live differently in our bedroom versus our kitchen or our living room. So what is your favorite room in your home, and why?
Honestly, my favorite room is our meditation room, which is really a section of our living room. We have like beautiful geodes that we collect from all over when we travel. And we're looking out at the Sonoran Desert. And that's the room that is kind of our sacred space, where we take that time every morning. We spend an hour in prayer and meditation, just, going through our intentions, asking the questions. Are we on track? Are we in alignment with our goals? What do we need to do? What does this day need to look like to be, as productive as possible? How can we be our best expression? All of those things. So that's definitely my favorite space.
And I just add one thing, and that is, when we could travel, we went to Italy, and that's one of our favorite places. We love America, don't misunderstand, but we go to Florence, and you see the greatest sculpture ever. I think you'd agree, the David. Yeah. And you read about Michelangelo, and they say, Michelangelo, how you make a David? I chip you out everything that's not David. And that's what we got to do in our own lives. And then we're going to help other people do it, like all these people that we're going to rescue. And we're going to introduce you to a great woman that'll be on your podcast, I predict, that wants to help you. And she owns, Mitzi Purdue has win this fight, and she wants to, solve the problem for as many of the 40 million people that are stuck in sex trafficking in the planet as she
wonderful.
Can. And she's got some really good thoughts and activity about it. That's what I mean, is it, and just by you bringing that up, it brings out another dimensionality of not only you, but us and Mitzi. And that's what the world's about, is how do you ask questions to add dimensionality, to add sourcefulness, to add joy, to add experience and opportunity, because there's more than enough for 8 billion of us to do. And we got a lot of work to do, and we got to get out of this sequestration.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to meeting her. And I do believe by having these kind of conversations and it becoming more awarenesses for people, because, no matter what the conversations that you're having, I think even when we were talking about masks, like some people are just blindly putting them on and not thinking about, am I breathing CO2 all day? How's this affecting our children? Just asking this questions to be like, oh, I never thought of it that way, or looking at it in a deeper way, and all of these different things that we can have impact on. So I love the format that you guys are putting out there with the book, and how you're just really asking those deeper questions so that people can really understand how you've arrived at that and how other people can do that for themselves as well. I know we're going to be putting all of your details and things in the show notes, but is there anything quickly you'd like to say as far as how people can stay in contact with you?
Yep. We would like everyone to go to Amazon, because that's universally available, and the podcasts are listened to anywhere in the world now, in Africa and everywhere. And we've been there. So, and then get a copy of the book, ask to get two, and go over it with your sweetie kids, go over it with your mastermind partner, your church mate, whoever it is that you go over it with, your business partner, and then go to askthebookclub.com, and we're going to help you for free learn how to become master askers, because we think that's a great journey. And then my website is markvictorhansen.com. We've got some great free gifts there, and Crystal's is
crystalvisionlife.com. So, yeah, and we're just really excited. And when you buy the book, please reach out to us. I love to hear people's journeys. I love to hear their reflections. It's important, because our goal is to really, we don't have to work another day in our lives if we didn't want to, but we really want to try to make a difference. And, rekindling this beautiful tool inside of everybody, this ability to ask is one of the keys to success and happiness. So please, get the book, reach out, tell us what you're thinking. And you can connect with us on social media at Crystal Dwyer Hansen for me, any, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then of course, Mark Victor Hansen for Mark.
Perfect. Oh, I love this so much. And, I think that one of the things, I know we've talked a lot here about being a force for good. And I'd love for you each to share any final thoughts around how you're being a force for good in the world and how you're going to bring that forth. So whoever would like to start with that.
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things I can remind people of, and I try to do it all the time, is while it appears that life is happening somewhere outside of you and it's just coming at you and you're kind of ducking and dodging and trying to keep all the balls in the air, the reality is that your life is created inside. Your life is created from the inside out in your own heart and mind. And so, shut off the outside world, especially now, because there's a lot of negative news and a lot of things. We have to stay informed, but it's just overwhelming sometimes. And you have to take that creative space inside of yourself, that no matter what is going on outside, you're going to create something amazing from the inside.
Beautiful.
And I want to make the world work for 100% of humanity, physically, economically, spiritually. And we're doing a multiplicity of projects, inclusive of one of the fundamental freedoms is the freedom to read. I think it's freedom of freedoms. And so we're trying to get everybody, 4 billion people on the planet can't read. And if they could read, maybe we can help end sex trafficking. We can make sure they're fed, housed, clothed, all these kind of cool things that have never been available before. And technology frees us at some level, and then it takes back to what, give your thinking to it. So I'm doing my thought in press on universe, so it has to come back and we'll figure it all out. And not alone, but with more and more of us coming online with good thinking.
I love that. And, I so appreciate what both of you are doing. Mark and Crystal, thank you so much. You could decide to go retire on an island and just unplug from the world. But the fact that you are so passionate about increasing human potential and giving people the tools to actually be able to ask the right questions and to really, stand into their potential, who it is. I'm very grateful for what it is that you are doing. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So happy to be here.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, you are the most important aspect of why we are here. It's so important for us to have positive messages and how you are being a force for good in the world. We thank you so much for being here. And we ask that you share and review and get this message out in the world. Make sure that you grab the Ask book and get 2 of them. It's so good to do it, that you've got a partner. We know that we succeed more when we're doing something with someone else. And when you have someone to talk to elevate your questions, to challenge challenge you to get to the next level. That's how we can all improve together. And that's something that you can do moving forward. So until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye.